let me just introduce the three students, and why don't you just raise your hand or just nod to the audience. Terra Cole. She comes from Mile High United Way in Denver, Colorado. She manages Bridging the Gap, a program targeting foster youth between the ages of 14 and 21, and provides them with a spectrum of support services, including IDAs and financial education. Program alumni Terra Cole entered the foster care system herself at the age of 7 and was connected to Mile High United Way when she became emancipated at the age of 17. And today, she's in her second year of law school at Catholic University and is an accomplished community advocate and public speaker. Stand up and take a bow. Stand up, it's good for you. Thanks for being here. Our second student speaker is Tiara Hopkins. Maya Angelou Public Charter School here in DC couples rigorous academics with transformative programming to help low-income African-American youth move on to college, career, and a lifetime of success. Up until very recently, the school sponsored an IDA program for its high school students, and with a specific goal of saving for post-secondary education, you're taking advantage of that, Tiara. She's an alumni saver from the program and is now a sophomore at Trinity University, and she's the first in her family to attend college. Stand up and take a bow. And then last but not least is Jennifer Jones. Launched as a pilot partnership between the KIPP network of public charter schools, the United Negro College Fund, and CFED, the Partnership for College Completion began offering matching college savings accounts to KIPP students in the fall of 2010. Jennifer is a high school senior at KIPP DC College Prep, overcoming the real challenges of growing up in a low-income family. She's on track to be her class valedictorian. She has a passion for education and led the effort to create a peer tutoring program at her school. And she wants to become a math teacher, and goodness knows we need 1.6 million teachers over the next decade. So congratulations, and why don't you stand up? So let me start with Jennifer, I guess. And then maybe each of you could respond to this question. We're going to ask some questions for the next probably 20 minutes or so. So first, tell us about when you started saving and why, if each of you could think about that, maybe starting with Jennifer and then going.
Well, I started saving last year. I heard about the program my 10th grade year, but it wasn't a formal introduction, so it was kind of a general, hey, we might start a savings account your 10th grade year. My mom had no idea what I was talking about, neither did I know what I was explaining to her. So we sat down, I believe, with my counselor at school my 11th grade year, and she explained the program to us a little more formally, and my mom started saving for me then as well as for my brother. So I started my 11th grade year, my brother started his 8th grade year.
I'd saved often on for specific things. I was in foster care, so for example, I had to save a certain dollar amount before I could get out just so that I could plan for certain things. But I didn't start saving for my future until I was introduced to the CFED initiative when I was 17.
And what about you?
I was never a saver.
She was never a saver. You better hold this up so they can all hear you.
And when I started high school, they gave us internships, and they took $5 out of our check, every paycheck, and put it to the side for us. And my 12th grade year, we had something called Future Focus, where we just worked on resumes and applications for college. And at the end of the 12th grade year, someone came from KIPP and told us about the account and how they'll triple the money that we saved. And I saved $300 from my internship from 9th grade to 12th grade, and I just put that into my account.
Great. Let's give them a hand for the first question. These questions are hard. So now the next question, maybe we'll start with Tiara. What impact did having an account have on how you thought about going to college. Did it matter? Yeah. Go.
It mattered a whole lot. I was living independently at the age of 17 and barely making enough to pay my rent and my bus fare to get to my fast food job. So CFE sort of took on the role that maybe a parent would take on to make sure that someone was thinking about my future. So yeah, it made all the difference.
And what about you?
It made a big difference because my mother didn't know anything about college. My father had no idea about college. So for somebody to be there and be like, this is what you need and this is how you do it, it really made a big difference.
And what about you, Jennifer?
Well, I knew from when I was about 9 that I wanted to go to college. My mom, she's a single parent of 2. She didn't finish. She started college, but she didn't finish. She actually went back, and she hopefully will be graduating this year. But seeing her, as I was growing up, I watched her struggle with 2 children, and I love my mother with all of my heart, I really do. And she even sat down and told me that I do not want you to grow up and struggle the way that I do. And she told me the best way to do that would be to get a college education. So the account helps to set aside money for college, but I knew from when I was younger that I wanted to go to college, so I just was able to save things with the account.
So, Jennifer is making a point about, having that aspiration to go on and not knowing what the future is. It's so uncertain, you just don't know. And I guess, maybe starting with you, would like to know, what do you think are the 1 or 2 barriers? What can get in the way? What got in the way for you? The world is very difficult. It's not perfect. Things happen to people that, maybe all 1,200 people in this audience can do something about. So what's the 1 thing or 2 things that, we could get out of your way so that you will really be successful in the decision you made to go to college, or in the past, growing up? Is there something that we could do better to make it easier? Yeah.
Oh. Well, far as outside situations, nothing really got in my way of not going to college. Like, the account really helped to pay for books and things like that. That was my only problem, having extra money for books and other school supplies.
Okay, so the account's critical. What about you?
One thing that comes to mind is that by 8th grade, I had a college reading level, and no one noticed. No one spoke to me about college even then. So I think we're very acute care sensitive. We're paying attention to children who are in a state of crisis, and sometimes it's the children who are just below the radar that could really use our hand.
So pay attention to all children, especially the ones that you might not think about. And you were on grade level for college at 8th grade. So if they had known that you were on 8th grade, what would have happened? Would you go into a more accelerated program? What do you think could have happened?
Well, I believe they might have leveraged my sort of natural interest in education and also started planning sooner. For example, I did not finish high school. I was very fortunate to go on to college so that it's not such a disadvantage, but perhaps I would have finished high school if someone had taken notice of that earlier on.
Yeah. So recognize the students in front of you in the classroom and don't let anybody drop out.
Never let anybody drop out.
And Jennifer?
I guess the biggest thing I struggled with growing up was my mom having a steady job, and her not knowing how to save herself, I guess, was the struggle in teaching me how to save. So I am appreciative, and I noticed in the video that we are going to start teaching younger kids how to save and budget at a younger age now. And I think that will help the generations to come to grow up and hopefully be better savers than we are. And I think if we get children on the path for college at a younger age as well, that'll help too. Not necessarily, not starting off as freshmen saying, well, let's go visit some colleges now. I think taking it back, like KIPP did with me, maybe to 5th grade or even before then, and saying, you can go off and get an education here and be better. So taking them to see colleges at a younger age, I think will help as well.
Great answer. So, Terra, what can we do to encourage more young people to get serious about college and plan for it? You know, how can we leverage all the things that you've done for yourself? What are the most important things we ought to be doing?
Well, I think one of the most important features of the SEED initiative was that they gave me money to manage. And some of the other programs I'd been involved with taught me about money management, but in my mind, those lessons were for people who had money to manage. And by doing that, they taught me how to invest in myself. And so outside of just the literal savings investment, I sort of had a new way to think about my own future, that I would have a future that didn't have to be defined by poverty.
That's an amazing statement. I hope this is being written down. What about you?
I think that you should just enforce like education more and more and more, because I'm in a program where in Ward 7 and 8, I go to schools and help children, because not a lot of kids in those areas see kids or people of where they're from go to college. So I go and I teach them, just let them know about college and education and savings. So just enforce education.
And what about you, Jennifer? That's great.
I agree with her enforcing education, letting them know you can be somebody if you go off and get an education, and not telling them to stop with a bachelor's degree, pushing them to go ahead and get that master's degree, even a doctorate degree if they need to, in the field that they want to get a career in. So pushing the education, I think, is a great idea.
So let's talk a little bit about your futures. What do you see yourself 5 years from now? Why don't we start with you and then go this way?
Well, I want to give back to my community. So if I'm not a school counselor or a therapist, I don't know. I just want to be a therapist or a school counselor.
And what about you?
Well, I'm going into my 3rd year of law school, and I would love to be an employed attorney when I reach the other end of it. And I haven't committed to a certain field of practice yet, but I would love to stay involved in initiatives like the one that I was a part of for CFED, and even if there's an opportunity to collaborate with the other participants so that we can, remain a part of this effort, that would be great.
And what about you, Jennifer? Everybody wants to clap for each of you.
Well, being as though I'm graduating this year, hopefully in 5 years, I'll be graduating from college and entering my first year into the work field. I want to be a math teacher. That my heart is set on being a math teacher, a 5th grade math teacher specifically. Hopefully I'll get my master's and PhD in education, open up my own school and daycare center. That's where my heart is right now.
Well, you have to make sure you come to the Department of Education and have some opportunity. So let's talk a little bit about family, parents, the environment you're in your families. What advice would you have for parents? You know, the family has been at sometimes a barrier, sometimes I think you said so well, Jennifer, right there for you. What advice would you have? What do you need from parents to get to the success level that you're at now and really have, as you all said, the impetus to move on and really contribute? I think you said it so well. Why don't you start, Jennifer?
I think parents need the ability to save. They need to know about having a college education or pursuing and getting a college education so that they can teach their children how to do those things. I feel as though it starts in the home with the parent. And if the parent can't teach their child how to do it, or someone that the child is close to cannot teach them how to do it, then the child struggles and won't be able to pursue in that area.
Well, I grew up in the foster care system, so I was not living with my parent, but as the state being my parent, I think every foster child will automatically fit the demographic that we are trying to reach with programs like this. And I would love to see them target it in a greater way so that we build in that culture of college expectation early on in children from the foster care system. Less than 3% of children from foster care go on to complete a college degree.
Right, right. We have a very serious effort to look at this challenge underway. Why don't you go ahead?
I think parents need to get involved and stay involved. Get involved in their kids' life. I see too many people from high school who don't have parents that's there. Either they're working late, working early. The parent is never there. So I think parents need to get involved and stay involved.
Yeah. Now, one thing you mentioned was that you had, I think it's a part-time job while you were in school.
An internship.
And that helped you kind of plan for, building assets for yourself and, learn, obviously, the knowledge and skills that you need to be a contributing citizen, a great employee, et cetera. How did that help you, and was that a challenge to actually work while you went to school part-time?
Well, because it was with my school, it went with my school hours, so it wasn't that hard, but sometimes I was tired, had to get up the next day, so it kind of worked itself out because it was with the school.
And so do you think that helped you save for yourself because you had that part-time opportunity?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's something I think strategically we need to think about. We know the research says if you work more than 10 or 15 hours a week, it really cuts into your study time. Mm-hmm. But at least to have the opportunity to get that experience is great for your resume. It's great for asset building. And, so just want to congratulate you on managing all of that and being a good student. I was going to ask you about the foster youth system and what advice you might have for that. What could we do systemically to get more foster youth having the aspirations that you've had for yourself that you're so beautifully demonstrating to all of us?
Well, I think I was introduced to the SEED initiative as part of my independent living training when I was already on my way out of the foster care system. So that means until I was 17 years old, no one had the job of ensuring that someone was thinking about my future. It was all very moment by moment based, crisis by crisis. So if we could just have that role for every foster child, have someone who's thinking about, 15 years from now, what sort of future do we want to see for this child? And it needs to be college education of some type.
Great. And then Jennifer, you want to teach mathematics. I'm not sure if it's elementary school, middle school, high school, or an early learning center, but what would you want the students you have 5 years out, 10 years out to know? What would you tell them?
I want them to know that I'm always there. Ever since I've been at KIPP, I grew up with teachers who've always been there when I needed them. They gave us their numbers so that we can call and get in touch with them if we needed help with homework. They were there from 6 or 7 in the morning until 7 or 8 at night, working with students and constantly being there for us. And I appreciated that. Having that support at school and at home was a benefit, a plus. So I want the students that I work with to know that I am there. And if your parents are not always there for you, I will be. I want to grow up. I want them to understand that if you need me to talk to, not even just about education, but I'm always there. That's the main thing I want them to know.
And so let me just turn to a little different question for each of you. Maybe we'll start with you. You know, one of the things that we have to think about, and I think Sterling talked about integration. And, you know, not only do we have the ladder toward opportunity, but the network to support the ladder. And when, you know, from my generation, we think about that network, we think, you know, how can we create that integration across whether it's, you know, the Department of Social Services or healthcare or education or community support like Mayor Nutter's doing in Philadelphia or others. How can we make that network strong? But when we think about young people, we get very concerned about the social network you have and how easy it is to get off track with kids that aren't having the aspirations that you all exemplify. And so how can we, you know, sort of create a new social network, or what would support you to have, or other children coming after you, other young people coming after you, to be in a network of support? What would that be? I mean, you're in the KIPP program. There's certain aspects of actually being there. I mean, is that the network? Should it be within the school? Is there something that the communities can do? Just any thoughts you have about that support network that you would need for success for so many more students coming after you?
Well, I think you should stay in the school system. That's where I got it, and my younger brothers, siblings, that's where they at most of the time. School. So just stay in the school systems, have more activities and programs built into the school system.
What about you? What do you think?
Outside of additional collaboration with maybe other participants in the programs, I would say a lot of young people don't know that there are rooms full of people like this who are concerned about their future. I personally had no idea that so many people were working hard every day to help build a future for me. So if we can expose, you know, young people to adults who are interested in these issues, because a lot of the adults around them just aren't focused on it.
Jennifer, what do you think?
I think it's a balance between the school, the home, and the community. The school being there for the child while they're getting the education and letting them know that you can be someone. And at home, you know, you go home or you're leaving to go to school, you're still with, you're traveling from between school and home at all times. So having that balance between the two of them and knowing that you have the support within those two places is beneficial. And I say the community because you have to get involved in your community. You have to know who's there. You have to, if you're a strong person helping those who need help, if you need a little help, being able to step out and say, I need help, and going to someone about it, is that's what I'm trying to say.
Maybe two more questions. The college savings accounts that you all had access to and built with your families weren't enough to really cover what I called the cost of college. So even though it had an impact, it helped you learn financial capability, financial literacy. Did it help? How did you cover the rest of, or are you planning to cover the rest of college? And what might we think about in terms of that one asset savings account as, part of this bigger financial need that you have to be successful at Trinity or at, Catholic or at the other institutions that you're attending to or will attend in the future? What do you think?
Well, I have loans, of course.
She has loans.
And a scholarship from my high school, and I have another scholarship coming, so that helped me cover school.
Okay, and what about you?
I was very fortunate not to have to pay for my undergrad program. One thing about the financial education courses I took is I learned about interest compounding on top of interest. So I worked very hard to keep my grades high so that I could stay full ride throughout undergrad, and of course had to take out some loans for law school. But the courses that I took, even if the savings couldn't pay for college, helped me to make better financial decisions when it came time to invest in my education.
And what about you?
Well, I already have a $10,000 scholarship from the KIPP program. Back in my 8th grade year, I was named KIPPster of the Year, which is a huge honor.
Congratulations.
And I'm currently working on a Questbridge application, the Gates Foundation application, as well as the Coca-Cola Foundation. Every scholarship I see, I'm applying for it.
So I guess if you were designing a savings program for the future, do you have any ideas of what this group should be thinking about if they could build on the success of CFED? Any thoughts? Maybe start with Jennifer.
I can't think of anything right now.
Okay.
But I do want to say that you all are doing a great job, and I even appreciate the push, like she mentioned, knowing that all of you are there supporting us and encouraging us on the way. And for the generations to come, it's going to be more of you helping and supporting them. So it's very appreciative, and thank you.
Thank you.
I would say first to continue reinforcing positive goals, even attendance, and maybe not just rewarding students who get A's, but reward them for all the intermediate steps that they need to take to get those A's. And also just continue to put a face on programs like this, because sometimes you know about a program, but if you don't know the person who you need to call when you're thinking about your future, it makes it less real because you don't know the person. So for those of you who are putting a face on it, I really appreciate that.
And last?
I don't know what I do, but I just say keep enforcing the saving, because without CAB and IDA, I don't have no idea how I'll pay for books, my computer, none of that.
So let me now just join with the audience and thank these 3 role models for the nation. You have done a fantastic job. Let's stand up and thank you. And why don't you guys stand up? Thank you so much. Look at everybody clapping for you. Thank you so much. Great job. Great, great job. Thank you, everybody.